helped us understand our rights as a student journalist.
And Rita, you're co-editor-in-chief. Did anyone pressure you not to publish the story?
I think it was just general apprehension about how the community would react. I don't think there were any specific people that would say, like, single me out or anything like that. It was just the idea of the entire school board or the entire administration having certain thoughts about it.
I think you guys are awesome. Patrick, it's your 16th birthday, I understand. Happy birthday. Trina, you're a senior. Are you planning to study journalism? Can we look forward to your application to be an intern here at the Lead someday?
I'm planning on joining a college newspaper. I worked in any future internships in news and media.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing from both of you more in the years to come. Thank you so much. And Patrick, I'm sorry, it's your 17th birthday today. Happy birthday. Both of you, good luck. I've seen the future of journalism and it looks great. That's it for the lead.
He took a shower. Changed into his clothes,
Happening now, breaking news. Trump's red line. President Trump says something should happen with regard to Syria's leader after the deadly chemical attack that killed dozens of people, including children. The president calls that a disgrace to humanity. He's expected to meet tonight with his national security team, and the source says he is considering military action in Syria. Stepping aside, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes steps aside from the probe into Russia's election meddling after the Ethics Committee announces another investigation for improperly classified information. Filibuster showdown.
Not a filibuster. That's what I'm gonna do to AJ. I'm gonna give him a filibuster. Rob said it's noggin.
Does the so-called nuclear option, allowing a simple majority vote, signal the end of any bipartisanship? At high-stakes summit, President Trump gets ready for a very critical summit with China's president amid reports of sharp infighting among his advisors. With Chief Strategist Steve Bannon demoted from his
That's all they've been doing since he's been in there is fighting.
I'm
Crazy
here
folks.
in the Situation Room.
Yeah, presidency just ain't what it used to be, is it?
This is CNN breaking news. We have multiple breaking news stories this hour. President Trump is weighing military action in Syria. A source says he's discussing possible options with Defense Secretary James Mattis. And officials say he's expected to meet tonight with his national security team. The president's not tipping his hand, but calls the chemical attack in Syria one of the truly egregious crimes, saying something should happen with regard to Syria leader Bashar al-Assad. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson adds, quote, it requires a serious response, suggesting steps are underway to force Assad from power. And in a stunning move, the Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee has stepped aside from the investigation into Russia's election meddling.
It seems like that's too difficult to play on there. I'll be seeing you and him doing all that.
Which began with a secret visit to the White
How
House
you know it's fun?
Cause I'm playing.
You know what fun is?
President Trump's wiretap.
Yes.
How you know?
Well, you doing something if you have.
When you laughing?
Kinda.
When you feel good?
Today he repeated his campaign mantra.
He said,
The United States unfairly on trade and indicates he'll press China hard to do something about North Korea's nuclear threat. And Senate Republicans have made good on their threat to use the nuclear option, lowering the threshold of votes needed to break a filibuster. The historic move to change Senate rules clears the way for the confirmation of Supreme Court nominee Judge Neil Gorsuch. I'll talk to Republican Senator Tom Cotton of the Intelligence and Armed Services Committees and our correspondents, analysts, and guests. They are standing by with full coverage of the day's top stories. President Trump is over at his Florida resort right now. He's getting ready to meet next hour with China's leader. But much of the talk tonight is about Syria. Sources say the president is weighing military action and urgent huddles are set with his national security team. Let's begin with our White House correspondent, Sarah Murray. Sarah, what's the latest?
Well, that's right. Well, the president will be meeting
he must be starting to stand out in the rain, snow, or whatever, just to
Defense Secretary James
get a
Mattis
few
as
dollars.
he weighs potential ways forward when it comes to Syria.
Stand out there doing this.
Seeing a very different posture from the Trump administration.
It's me, AJ,
on Syria and
and
its
Wilbur.
president than he did just a few days ago. Tonight, President Trump adopting a sharply tougher tone on Syria.
I think what Assad did is terrible. I think what happened in Syria is one of the truly egregious crimes.
After administration officials previously suggested the U.S. wouldn't push to overthrow Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, the aftermath of a horrific chemical attack on Syrian civilians may be changing hearts and minds. Today, Trump suggested something should be done.
I think what happened in Syria is a disgrace to humanity. And he's there, and I guess he's running things. So something should happen.
The president even privately telling some members of Congress he's considering military action, though he hasn't yet committed to taking such a step. Trump sharing his evolving views on Syria with reporters aboard Air Force One, as he left behind a turbulent week in Washington and geared up for a potentially tense meeting with the Chinese president. Trump welcoming President Xi Jinping to his Mar-a-Lago resort, where a top concern is sure to be North Korea's ballistic missile launch earlier this week. The president saying he expects China to bolster its efforts to rein in ally North Korea and its nuclear program, as the president previewed a busy agenda with the Chinese president.
We're going to be talking about low trade, and many other things.
It will be the first meeting between the leaders of the world's two largest economies, after Trump spent much of his time on the campaign trail hurling insults in China's direction.
China, which has been ripping us off, the greatest abuser in the history of this country.
Despite Trump's drumbeat of criticism about China's trade policies, economic policy clearly taking a back seat, as broader foreign policy concerns bombard Trump's young presidency. Just days ago, Trump delivering a familiar refrain, saying he's not interested in being president of the world.
I'm not, and I don't want to be, the president of the world. I'm the president of the United States. And from now on, it's going to be America first.
Then world events intervened. The horrors in Syria,
Man, look at them
leaving world
kids,
leaders
man.
looking to the
That's
United
messed
States
up.
to see what Trump would do next, and challenging the president to reconsider his worldview.
I now have responsibility, and I will have that responsibility and carry it very proudly. I will tell you that. It is now my responsibility.
Meanwhile, back at the West Wing, a sideshow as tensions simmer among some of Trump's top aides. Steve Bannon's removal from the National Security Council bringing to the forefront tensions between Bannon and one of Trump's more moderate advisors, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Now, what you're really seeing in this White House right now is an ideological battle from some of Donald Trump's more conservative advisors and some of his more moderate, even liberal advisors. That's the kind of fight that's going to shape a number of policy decisions going forward on healthcare and tax reform, perhaps even on foreign policy.
Good point. All right, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah Murray. Over at the White House, U.S. officials say the president will be meeting tonight with his national security team to explore options, including the use of military force against the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad. Let's go to our Pentagon correspondent, Barbara Starr. Barbara, what do you learn?
Well, these options have actually, of course, been in existence for some time. The U.S. military has known for months how it would deal with the Assad regime if it was ordered to do so. So there's basically two things on the table our sources are telling us. A very limited strike against perhaps the airfields where those airplanes launched from that dropped those weapons with nerve agent in Syria, northern Syria, killing those people, those horrific pictures emerging. Do a limited military option. But does that really change Assad's view? Does that change his behavior? Not very likely. So the
Let's see where I'm gonna give you the razor.
president wants to go
Probably right in there. Oops.
Helicopters, artillery, rockets that can be filled with this type of agent, taking out the storage facilities, the manufacturing, the fabrication. You're talking then about a very extended campaign about dozens of potential targets. And one of the big ifs on the ground is where are the Russians? Russian military forces are on the ground in Syria. They are at Syrian military installations. If you're going to strike a broader set of targets, you're going to want to make sure you don't inadvertently strike Russians. Everyone's looking for a way to war here. The White House is looking for a way to send some kind of message and potentially take some kind of broader action tonight. It all awaits a decision by the president.
It's a critically important decision indeed. All right, Barbara, thank you. Barbara's over at the Pentagon. Joining us now, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. He's a member of both the Intelligence and Armed Services Committee. He served combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Will.
I want to begin with our top story. The president, as you now know, is considering military action in Syria after this week's horrendous chemical weapons attack on civilians, killing a lot of children in the process. What specific options should the president be weighing now?
Well, Wolf, I think the president ought to consider that kind of military action. I strongly supported military action against Syria in 2013 when they violated Barack Obama's red line using chemical weapons against our own people. The president decided against it, and we've seen what's happened since then. Dozens of chlorine gas attacks, the massacres in Aleppo last fall with Russian air power, and now another atrocity against their own people. So these are not just moral outrages. This is the exact kind of thing that drives Arab Muslims into the hands of the Islamic State and threaten the United States. So in terms of military action, the president obviously will listen to his commanders and have a wide range of options. Those options don't have to include trying to change the regime in Syria immediately or establish a constitutional democracy there. They could be something along the lines of what President Reagan did in 1986 in Libya after Muammar Gaddafi's terrorist forces in Germany bombed a popular nightclub where American service members frequented. We struck barracks, we struck airfields, we struck command and control centers. There's no lack of targets in Syria that teach Bashar al-Assad that we're not going to tolerate the use of chemical weapons in the world today, and that we're going to punish those who did.
The Secretary of State, as you know, Senator Rex Tillerson, he says his words, steps are underway to remove Bashar al-Assad. That's a dramatic shift from what he just said a few days earlier when Tillerson and the U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, both suggested Assad's fate should be decided by the Syrian people. So what steps do you think he's referring to, the Secretary of State?
Wolf, it's been the stated policy for years of the United States government that Bashar al-Assad should leave power in Damascus. President Obama didn't actually implement that policy, but that was the stated policy. That policy has not yet changed. I know the National Security Council is undertaking a deliberate review of that policy. There are many ways we can bring pressure to bear, not only on Bashar al-Assad, but on his patrons, Vladimir Putin in Moscow and the Ayatollahs in Tehran. But military action can be an option as well to demonstrate to those patrons and to demonstrate to Assad that U.S. patience has expired and the U.S. is back in the fight in the Middle East.
I know the president has been making some phone calls to some key members of the House and Senate. Has he called you yet?
I've not spoken with the president about it. I have consulted with some of his senior advisors, though. And, of course, you don't want to take hasty or precipitate action. President Reagan, for instance, waited 10 days in 1986 to ensure that the intelligence supported the conclusions that Libya was behind those bombings in Germany. But I think consequences have to flow. The president recognized that in his statement from the Rose Garden yesterday, expressing both justified moral outrage, but also refusing to reveal his hand about exactly what those consequences might be.
Well, listen to this, because during the campaign, not that long